Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about a little bit of news, mostly around a certain direct that just recently happened, as well as full spoilers for Ms. Marvel Season 1, Episode 4, Seeing Red, and The Boys Season 3, Episode 6, Herogasam. So let's get started with our first section, On Beat. On Beat is, of course, our news segment. Before we get into the Nintendo Direct news, we have one other story to cover, and that is that Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, has confirmed that Marvel will be back at Comic-Con this year in Hall H in all its glory. So we should be getting some Marvel news. We've been kind of waiting, we've gotten through a bunch of Phase 4 stuff already. It's time to start hyping us up about what's coming up after.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I'm excited. If Marvel is coming back to Comic-Con, I'm hoping that's a signal that they have some big announcements to make, some bombs to drop.
Maybe
there's
some
rumors.
Fantastic forecasting.
Some fantastic forecasting. There's rumors going around that there's going to be a Thunderbolts movie. There's going to be a Doctor Doom movie, maybe, according to Howard Stern.
Could use some more details about Blade.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It should be some good stuff, hopefully. That's what we can look forward to. We're going to start our Nintendo Direct story here with predictions. So this was a partner Direct, so it's a little bit limited. It wasn't going to have a bunch of first-party stuff, but we each made three predictions. No Breath of the Wild.
No Mother 3.
No Mother 3, exactly. Yeah. We each made three predictions, though, and we're going to go over those right now to start things off. So my first prediction, I said, I think Bayonetta 3 will be there. It's second party with third party dev and owner being Sega, Platinum and Sega.
Yeah, Platinum is developing. Sega owns the IP. Nintendo is publishing as a first party.
But hey, they call it a partner direct.
Yeah, I get the logic, and I can't fault you for that. I didn't think it was there because I didn't think Nintendo considers it a partner title in the same way that they consider Nier a partner title. So I felt like Bayonetta 3 would be something Nintendo would be saving.
They did have Fire Emblem Warriors in a previous direct, though.
I think it was Hyrule Warriors. Because Three Hopes was announced in February.
They did do that. And there was one in this partner direct as well that had Nintendo IP in it. So
yeah, but people point this out. You're talking about Mario Rabbids. People love to point this out. Guess what? That's Ubisoft. Ubisoft is doing the developing.
Still, it's it fits enough into that partnership range that I feel like
Ubisoft is doing the developing. They're doing the publishing. They're doing the marketing. This is Ubisoft making a game and licensing the IP from Nintendo. Nintendo,
as partners.
Nintendo
Same thing.
Right, as a partner. But Nintendo has nothing to do with this game outside of they're letting Ubisoft use their property.
And Nintendo has nothing to do with Bayonetta outside of publishing it for them.
You're not even letting me get to the biggest supporting thing of your argument, which is you're kind of overlooking something here because they had Live Alive in there, and that's being published by Nintendo. And that's a Square game.
Yeah, published by America, I think just in America, right?
I have no idea. I didn't look into the worldwide publishing agreements here. I just know
Why not?
Nintendo America is publishing it. I just thought Bayonetta was just kind of a long shot.
Yeah, but I thought it fit, and we need new information about Bayonetta 3. We're halfway through the year. We've gotten one trailer. It's still scheduled to come out this year. Unless it gets delayed, it's still scheduled to come out this year, and we haven't gotten anything else on it.
Yeah.
So it's due.
We might get something this summer.
Yeah.
They might do
if they do a regular direct, or even
they might do a Bayonetta direct. Yeah.
We might get something. But that was my first prediction, and as we covered basically already, that did not happen. My next one is that I said, I think we will see something HD 2D, maybe just a reminder about Live Alive, a demo, something about the Dragon Quest game, Octopath 2, or something else entirely, maybe like DLC for Triangle or a port of the mobile Octopath game. In there, I directly said Live Alive, and I also said a demo. Both those happened.
Yeah, both those happened. You got that. That's not surprising. Live Alive comes out next month. It's like literally the marketing.
I think if they didn't have a demo, it probably wouldn't make sense to do a feature on it. Like maybe just throw it into the highlight reel.
Yeah.
You know? But because there's a demo, that's why they did more. It's the same thing with like when we were watching it, they had the trailer for the Portal collection.
Yeah.
And I was saying like, why are they showing the
because
Portal?
That was
an old game. It's
that was the shadow drop.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. That was the reason to show it, was because it was shadow dropping that day.
Funny thing about Portal, people found like Half-Life 2 is in that collection, and they like through hacking, and they've been
it's just kind of like in there like discreetly.
Yeah.
Like they just couldn't get rid of the code somehow, like it's somehow linked.
Yeah, exactly.
So they just left it all in there, but locked it off.
Yeah, they walled it off, and people discovered it. It's pretty funny.
My third prediction, I said, and then Persona. I think we'll get all three, but 5 could be wonky, like a cloud version. Not that it would have to be, but because the developers have been doing shitty shit like that.
Yeah, that would have been really stupid to do like a cloud version of PS4.
No dumber than the Kingdom Hearts move.
Yeah, here's the thing about the cloud versions. Kingdom Hearts just messed everybody up on this, to the point where people are saying like PS3 games probably going to be a cloud version now. It's like, it's just Nomura being crap. When
I said 5 could be wonky like that, it's like Persona 5 was originally a PS3 game, so it could easily be a Switch game, obviously.
Yes.
But Persona 5 Royal was a PS4 game. They added stuff in. What it means is that even though it's designed to look the same and everything, it could mean that they got lazy in the development because they knew they were working on PS4. They didn't put the same effort into compressing assets and doing things like that, because that happens a lot.
Yeah,
and that would mean that they would have to put the work in when they ported it to Switch for those details if they didn't do it already, which we don't even know if that's the case. So that's why I think it could have been a wonky version, just because publishers like Square have proven that they can go do something that stupid. I mean, fucking Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 were fucking PS2 games. It's absolutely absurd that those need to be.
Yeah. Because obviously, if they're going to port Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, they'd be based on the remasters. But even though the remasters launched on PS3 and were ported to the PS4, I don't know if anything extra was done to the remasters on PS4.
Some publishers will take like a really lazy route like that, just to say they did something without actually doing any of the work to do it. And it could also be they could be using it as an opportunity to test if they can get people to try out cloud games and shit. So it could be like, it could serve different purpose as well.
Right.
But that was my concern. But my base prediction was that we were going to get all three. And we did, and we'll talk about that later. Next up are your predictions. Like me, you predicted Persona 3, 4, and 5 for Switch.
It was the big thing going around. A lot of people like saying that it was happening, but the big thing was, the speculation was, maybe they're still coming to Switch, but they're waiting for a Nintendo Direct to announce it. Yeah. And so I was going off of that. I was like, okay, if it's happening, it's going to be here.
There were two possibilities, basically.
Yeah.
It was coming to Switch, or Atlas is fucking out of their minds.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Those are the only two possibilities.
When people were saying like, oh, it could still be coming to Switch, they're just waiting for a Nintendo Direct, I kind of took that to be copium, but it turned out to be true. So,
well, I mean, that's happened before too.
Yeah.
There have been games that were announced in something else. It was not announced for the Switch, and then everyone's like, oh, I guess it's not coming to Switch. And then a Nintendo Direct comes like a week later, and it's announced in that. That's happened before.
The funny thing was, like, when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series at Square Enix's like E3 event that year, the next day, the Nintendo Direct, it got announced for Switch as a cloud version.
Yeah.
Like, cloud version for Switch was not mentioned in the previous day's conference.
No, it's not. And that's not the only game that's done that.
So my prediction was like Persona coming, and then my next prediction was Dragon Quest Treasures, and I only based that on the fact that Square literally announced, I believe at the end of May, they literally put up like announcements saying like, oh, more info on Dragon Quest Treasures coming in June. And okay, well, June's almost over, and you haven't said shit about that game, so I guess it's going to be at the Nintendo Direct, right? It's like, yep.
Yeah, that was due.
Yeah.
And then your third prediction
was GoldenEye. This was another thing that's been predicted, rumored for a long time. Except we know there's something going on with GoldenEye. We know Nintendo and Microsoft reached some sort of deal regarding GoldenEye. And we know this because last month, Xbox leaked the achievements for GoldenEye for the Xbox version. They went up on Xbox.com. People screen capped them. After that came out, the big expectation was Microsoft was going to make the big announcement at their conference, and then they didn't. And so after that didn't happen, I think the eyes were on Nintendo. It's like, okay, like, is Nintendo going to? And you're thinking like, it's a partner direct. Yeah. But the thing about GoldenEye is that there's so many companies involved, because I believe the rumor is like it's actually being published by EA, because EA actually owns the publishing rights for James Bond video games.
EA owns the publishing rights for that game. Then you also have the Fleming estate?
Yeah, the Fleming estate.
That's tied into decisions like that. Even though they've already sold the rights for the franchise, they still have a say. And then you have Nintendo, because they owned a majority stake in Rare and also funded and published the original game.
Yeah, and I believe they own the license, the royalties, all the code and the assets. So if you want to remaster, remake it, Nintendo has to be involved.
Yeah. And then, of course, Microsoft now owns wholly Rare.
Yes.
So it's kind of like there's so many different, you got at least 4 people with fingers in the pie there.
Yeah. So this is like very complicated to make happen. It seems they're very close. I guess they're not quite there. There could be multiple reasons. There could also be like figuring out the timing of releasing it because sensitivities regarding Ukraine.
I mean, we still don't have fucking Advance Wars, so.
Yeah, we still don't have Advance Wars, so.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot. It's a very complicated thing. So I was wrong on that. It did not show up.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Let's bring it then to the actual things that were announced at the Nintendo Direct. You already mentioned Nier Automata. That's going to be coming out October 6th. This is what, a 7-year-old game now? When it was launched on PS3 and 3, or not PS3, PS4 and Xbox
PS4
One.
and Xbox One. It actually launched in 2017.
Yeah, same year as the Switch.
Yes. And so now it's finally coming to the Switch. It looks great.
It was actually close to around there too. Wasn't it like a spring game?
I believe so, yeah.
So it was like it launched in competition to the Switch, basically.
Yeah. It wasn't coming out on Switch back then because Switch was still new, and they were coming off the Wii U, where people were like very hesitant on if they should support Nintendo.
Yeah.
So,
I also think that I don't know if I don't know how to if it's Automata or Automata. I've heard it both ways by like
I heard it
people
both ways.
In the know.
I don't care. I'm not going to try.
Let's just refer to it as Nier because we know which Nier it is.
Right.
So I think with Nier,
we can refer to the other Nier as Daddy Nier. How about that?
Nier Papa.
Nier Papa. Yeah.
I think in the case with Nier, I don't know if it would have been possible on Switch before now. I think it's very likely that part of why Nier is working on Switch is because we have the whole kind of like FSR revolution going on right now.
I think the big reason Nier is working on Switch so well is because of Platinum Games, who developed this on the other platforms, because their technical knowledge of the Switch hardware now is probably to that level, because they've been working on the Switch now for a long time. They've made Astral Chain. They've been working on Bayonetta 3 for years now. They probably have the know-how of the hardware to be that they were able to be like, we
Nintendo,
can.
so they have like something equivalent to almost like first-party knowledge,
so,
you know?
They probably realized that, oh, hey, we can actually get this running.
I think FSR plays a part as well, though.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this weird, just recently in like the last year, this like huge increase in visual quality, visual fidelity of like Switch games.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of it's been speculation, but for example, Nintendo Switch Sports is using FSR. That's been like data mined, and that is 100% using
I would
FSR.
be surprised if it's using FSR, to be honest. It looks great for a Switch port. It looked great in the trailers.
It's running at a higher resolution than the PS4 version runs at.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it runs 1080p docked.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's for sure using FSR.
Yeah, I think for sure. That was a pleasant thing to see. I think if you have a Switch and you haven't played Nier, you should probably do it. It's a really fun action RPG. It's got that Platinum Games style that everybody loves. So,
and that Nier storytelling.
Yeah, that
Nier storytelling is like absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then we got, I'm just going to say now is as good a time as any that we're not going to be talking about every game that was shown there.
Oh, geez, no. Like, there's, and to be honest, like, a lot of it was just not interesting to me or Tyson personally. So,
yeah, no I mean, even some of the big games we're not really going to be talking about because,
like, I thought that
interesting to us.
Co-op game with, like, what was it, the dog and the fox? I thought that looked cute, but I don't have too much to say about that beyond that.
Yeah, I'm not going to play it. Yeah. I'm not really interested in playing it. It's like I'm kind of glad it exists, but that's about as much as I can say about it.
And low key, I'm probably gonna like end up getting Pac-Man World repacked because like that's a fun game. I like platformers. I like Pac-Man. I know you don't care too terribly much, and also again, I don't have a lot to say about that. So
yeah, but the next game we have up here then is Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection coming later this year.
Yeah, and that's cool. I
didn't know there were fucking like 10 games.
There aren't. Okay. So with the Battle Network games, they pulled a Pokemon. So they did like the first two games are like their own thing. And then like with like the third game to like the sixth game, they did two versions of each game. Like, so it's Mega Man Battle Network Blue and Mega Man Battle Network 3 White, and then 4 Proto Man and some other guy. I don't know. Yeah, they did that. So it ends up being 10 games, but like there's actually like 6 unique games.
They Pokemanned it.
Yes, they did. Capcom want that Pokemon money back then.
And now they can say you get 10 games in one package.
Yeah, because you get all the versions. It's a cool collection for people who, okay, I've never played a Battle Network game. It just didn't look interesting to me at the time, but I'm willing to pick something up like this and check it out. It makes it very easy to get into that series because you have like all the games right before you, and it's on a modern platform. I love the fact that Capcom has been doing all these collections this generation of all their previous games, because for me personally, I think Capcom is one of the third parties that has like one of the richest back catalogs in the industry, and to see them very aggressively bringing those games forward onto new hardware is very cool to see at a time where you don't get a lot of that from most companies.
All I have to say about that before we, I think, move on to the next game is Capcom, Daddy Capcom, do that with Breath of Fire.
Yes, I need to do a Breath of Fire collection. I agree. Like, yeah.
I need to play Breath of Fire 1 through 4. After that, like, you know, I don't really care about the other ones, but Breath of Fire 1 through 4. I don't care about Dragon Quarter. I don't care about Dragon Quarter, and I don't care about the mobile game.
Right. Oh, yeah, mobile game might as well not exist.
But I care about 1 through 4. So please bring those to us, Daddy Capcom. That brings us to our next game, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. We'd gotten, I think, 2 trailers for this before, right?
I believe so, yes.
But we hadn't had any actual like gameplay footage or anything.
Ubisoft today did like a 40 or so minute Sparks of Hope presentation. It was all about it.
Yeah, I didn't watch that.
You didn't watch every minute of that?
No, I don't care about Mario plus Rabbids.
It's a fun game. The first one's a very fun game. It's a strategy game, so like if you're not into those types of games,
like an XCOM style strategy game.
Yeah, just with Mario,
not like Final Fantasy Tactics or anything,
and
not
the Rabbids characters. Yeah. So this is more of the same of that. It looks fun. It's one of those things. If you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, you're not going to be.
I think the only thing that's really interesting that I noticed is it looks like they dropped the grid system.
Yeah, it looks like they dropped a grid. Also, like you talk about FSR, it looks like this game's using FSR because it very well might be. Yeah. It looks really good.
There's like a certain sharpness that we've seen in newer games where you can tell they're running at a higher resolution than they probably should be. And then that's usually a sign of FSR if they're able to like maintain the performance and also also get that additional sharpness. It's probably FSR.
Yeah, it's probably, yeah, exactly.
So that's Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, and that's coming October 20th. Next up, and we already mentioned this because it was one of your predictions, Dragon Quest Treasures coming December 9th.
Yeah, I already explained previously how like I figured it was going to be here, but yeah, it's cool to see it. Seeing the gameplay of it, obviously they're selling this as a new spin-off of Dragon Quest, but it's very obviously started as a Dragon Quest Monsters game because like they have the whole thing where you're still recruiting monsters, you're still having monsters do stuff for you, and you're even using monsters to help you traverse, even if the primary focus on the game seems to be hunting out rare treasures and trying to get as much gold as possible.
I think it gets the name mostly because of the character in it, who's in Dragon Quest XI. As an older version in Dragon Quest XI. So this is him when he's younger, and he was like a treasure hunter.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I think that's probably why they went with that name rather than just calling it Monster, you know, because it's playing into what that character's actual like ideals are.
Right.
He doesn't care as much about making monster friends. He cares about finding treasures.
So it looks neat. It looks like it could be fun. We'll have to see when Square Enix decides to give more information about it. It's coming out this year, December 9th.
Next game we're going to mention is RPG Time, The Legend of Wright, coming on August 18th. This is already out on other platforms. I'm not sure which platforms. I'm pretty sure it's on PC.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure about what other platforms it's on, but it's one of those games that people saw and said, oh, that looks interesting. And then it got kind of lost in all the other stuff that was coming out. People just completely forgot it existed. And that's something I've seen with people reacting to this direct is a lot of people going like, I really wanted to play that game and I just lost track of it. And like every single person I saw talking about the game, none of them had played it, but they had wanted to and then just lost track of it because maybe it just happened to drop when a bunch of other stuff was coming out, you know, and it was just the wrong time. But this is kind of like a chance for this game to get new life. It's a really cool looking game, really stylistic. It's got like, you know, it all takes place in like a notebook, and it's like some kid's notebook where he's drawing an RPG adventure, and it's using all these different materials like the notebook paper, a calculator, other things there like that you would use if you were playing like, you know, an old game of Dungeons and Dragons or something, and you have all these materials around you to kind of put your stuff together. So it's kind of got like a little bit of a Paper Mario kind of feel in the sense of like the way it's using materials. And then it's also got this kind of like just weird presentation, a lot of RPG kind of stuff going on. There's a section where it showed like, you know, piano keys on there. So it's got like some kind of a musical tie-in at some point. I don't know. It looks really kind of interesting and cute.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think they look pretty neat. Definitely.
I just glazed over on this one. I don't know if it was just between games I wasn't interested in or what, but I kind of like, I didn't really pay as much attention to this when it was first announced in the direct. And then like afterwards, I was kind of like going, oh, this is actually really cool looking, and paid more attention to it. But our next game on here is a game that looked really amazing to me, except for one small detail. And that game is Harvestella, which is going to be coming on November 4th. This is from Square Enix. It looks like a Square Enix game through and through.
Yeah, it looks like a Square Enix game. Graphically, it looks nice to me.
It's one of those games that takes the time to put in a lot of like just art direction choices. Like there's a scene where in the trailer where you see a big tree and then it cuts to like nighttime and the leaves on the tree are lit up, but not like fully lit up. Like they're lit up in the way leaves actually are lit up, you know, like where they're somewhat transparent and somewhat not. And it just looked really gorgeous. That's the kind of stuff that like I was seeing in this trailer. I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. This looks so cool. The only problem, it's a fucking farming RPG.
Which doesn't even bother me that much, but obviously it bothers you a lot.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I even have an issue with a farming mechanic being in a game. The bigger issue I have is that this whole game is about farming. So yes, you're going to fight monsters. Yes, there's some world disaster thing that you need to uncover. Yes, you're going to travel around and do stuff, but everything's going to point back to the farm.
Well, yeah, you got to go tend your farm. You got to tend your crops.
It's just way to kill the adventure. It bothers me because this could have been like a really cool, big, you know, RPG in the same way that like, and when I say big, I don't mean it's like going to compete with the newest Final Fantasy or something, but like it could compete in the sense of it being like a really beloved game in the way that like an Octopath or a Bravely Default game would. And then this mechanic is, it just, to me, it's a limitation. this is a game that I'm probably still going to play because I'm interested enough in it that I'm like, oh, this looks good. Yeah, come November 4th, I'm probably going to pick this up and I'll probably play it and I'll probably enjoy it. But it could have been so much more. It's not even that I begrudge it having a farming mechanic. I begrudge that it's so about farming, that the whole name, everything's about farming. Like, it's like, I just wish the farming mechanic was a smaller part of it and it was more about the RPG and the balance of things. But hey, can't win them all, right?
Right, yeah.
Because I did get 3 wins with our next game that we're going to talk about, our next games. Although they're being sold separately, they kind of come in a package deal as far as our discussion goes. And that is the last reveal of the show, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal.
They announced that in the opposite order. So here's the deal.
And Royal's coming out first, it seems.
Royal's the only one with the date. Royal is coming out in October. It's coming as both a physical edition and digital. And then the other 2 are undated, but I'm assuming at this point they're 2023. And 3 and 4 are going to be digital only.
That doesn't bother me. I don't care about physical editions. I try to go all digital. I know a lot of people don't like that. For me, it's about decluttering.
Right.
Like, I like just not having a bunch of clutter everywhere. I don't want a big game wall. So for me, this means nothing, the fact that they're digital only. And, who knows? Maybe somewhere down the line, they'll release a special edition, like a limited run game style thing, But for now, it looks like 5 Royal is going to be the first one out of the bunch, October 21st. Well, that's it then for On Beat. That was our Nintendo Direct discussion. We're going to go on to our final segment, full spoilers. Full spoilers, of course, where we talk about shows in full spoilers. And we're going to start things off with Ms. Marvel, Season 1, Episode 4, Seeing Red, in which Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel herself, goes to Pakistan.
Yeah, she goes to Pakistan with her mother. Obviously, she got the phone call from her grandmother last episode. That grandmother asked her if she saw the vision of the train. She did. And so she asked her to come to Pakistan. And so that happens. We get a lot of good character moments between Kamala and her mother. And obviously, Kamala's mother and her mother get some moments together. And that's nice. The rest of it is just boring as hell. I'm sorry. I'm just not really into this.
You know what I'm seeing as the problem for the series right now?
What?
I think that the showrunners of this series, they just want to do the family story. They just want to do the family story, and they want to do the whole like partition story thing.
Yes.
That's what they want to do. But they're making a Marvel series, and it's like they have to do the other part. And so it feels disconnected.
Yes, it does. I think that's exactly right. You can see it in this episode, like, because they go to Pakistan and they spend so much time pointing out things in Pakistan or shooting. Like, it's almost like they want to do like a travel documentary of Pakistan and talk about its history.
They want to get into the partition story. That's what they want to talk about.
And it's like, oh yeah, we have to do superhero stuff. The thing that makes it terrible is everything that happens is super predictable. It's stuff that you've seen a million times in other media. Nothing surprising happens. It's like the bad guys who were captured by Damage Control last episode. Yes, they escape while they're being led to containment. Like, obviously. Like,
it's funny because they show the containment facility. It looks all high tech and shit. And then they're like in a boiler room. It looks like from like the 1800s.
Yeah.
With like some rail that's like made out of like an old bike chain or something.
And I'm like, oh, geez. I wonder if they're going to escape. Oh, yep, they did. The show's biggest problem is the core characters are very well written, right? Kamala and her family are very well written. Her close friends are well written. Then, like, anybody outside of that circle seems to just be
there for like a purpose. They're just like a tool.
Fulfill a plot purpose. Yeah, they're not given the same level of characterization. Not even the villains of the piece.
They're props rather than characters.
Right. And the biggest example of this is when Kamala runs into Red Dagger. Then he takes her to the place where she meets his mentor and stuff, like the guy running it.
Waleed, I think his name is. Which is like, they present him like he's this really cool character. They set up this whole thing of like, oh, we need to talk about, your relationship with your great grandmother and everything that's going on there. We'll get to that later, but now you two kids have fun.
Well,
and then he dies the next time we see him.
Here's the thing about Waleed is like that character only existed to be an exposition dump. Like as soon as she meets him, he dumps all this exposition onto the viewer, like explaining like all this backstory. That's all he does. Then he does like some mild training with Kamala while still dumping exposition, and then he dies. And we're supposed to care or be upset that he died. And I'm like,
it's like they set him up like he was this interesting character coming in. Then they just did that. And it just makes you go like, okay, well, he's pointless, you know?
Yeah, it's pointless.
It would have been better if Red Dagger had a moment when he was talking to her where he said, I used to have this, you know, mentor, but he died, you know?
Yeah, it would have been the same impact. Like that's supposed to be emotionally impactful when he like gives his life trying to protect Red Dagger and Kamala, but you were a nothing character for the entire like 10 minutes you were on screen in this one episode. Why am I supposed to be upset at this? And it's funny too, because like I immediately thought of season 1 of Game of Thrones and Arya's teacher. I had more of an emotional reaction to that guy getting killed than I did Waleed. And that's because that guy was better written.
Yeah, they made him more charismatic. They gave him little quirks, little things that you could attach yourself to. And they didn't really do that here. Like here they were setting up like they were going to, and then they never did.
Right, yeah. They wanted to have this big emotional beat happen, but they didn't do the work to make it happen, which the work was make a character that we care about. Don't just introduce some guy, say, this is the good guy, and then have him not have any interesting traits and then die.
That's what this ends up feeling like to me, is that what Ms. Marvel actually is it's the people that made this show wanted to tell a story about a Pakistani American that learns about partition.
Yes.
And how that affected the Pakistani people. And that's what they wanted to do a story about. And they got greenlit through Disney to do it as a Marvel series.
Yeah.
And they just kind of went like, oh, okay, I guess, you know, whatever, throw in all the other stuff. We don't really care.
Right. And that means like all the superhero stuff that's happening just feels like it's going through the motions.
Yeah. And that's a big problem for an MCU show.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what sucks so much about it is they did get the family stuff. All the family stuff works. It's just like, if they just gone that extra distance and gotten the Marvel parts in
like
too,
Miss Marvel
they
herself
would have had one of the better Marvel shows, you know?
Miss Marvel herself, Kamala, she's great.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. The actress does a great job.
Her relationship with her family is great. All those characters are great. And then it's just the second it starts heading into the comic book territory, it gets like really dull. Yeah. And it just feels like they're going through the motions on that stuff. It's disappointing because like in the first episode, it was mostly the family stuff. And so you don't really notice that that's what's happening.
Too much into superhero stuff. So you're kind of wondering, where this is going to going. And then second episode, they start with the bland, forgettable characters, and the superhero stuff ends up being boring.
Yeah.
And that's my big problem with the show.
It's disappointing. We got 2 episodes left. We'll see how they end up finishing it off, but
I'm not on the edge of my seat. I'm sorry.
We should say they end with her apparently back in time or stuck in an illusion or something. I don't know.
Something like that. Again, it's going to focus more on like her history, which is fine because that's what they want to do.
And that might be the better stuff. So
that might be the better stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was Ms. Marvel, season 1, episode 4, Seeing Red. And now we're moving on to The Boys, the most hyped episode of the season.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, perhaps the best episode of the series.
I think so.
But not for the reasons they were advertising it as.
No.
Which is where we're going to get into.
Like that, you will never unsee this.
Season 3, episode 6, Herogasm. They've been hyping this up forever.
Herogasm did have some shocking things in it, but it's not like, and maybe this is just me giving away my level of degeneracy, but it's not something super shocking stuff that I hadn't really seen before, you know?
It's more like it's shocking in a mainstream show, kind of more than anything else.
The biggest shock from the Herogasm stuff, it's not really like even a shock if you like know the character was like the Deep with the octopus.
Or just the torment that Mother's Milk went through. First getting fucking hit with used lube and then splattered with something else.
I saw the tweet they did, like they showed like a BTS. They shot that stuff out of a cannon. And the tweet the boys' Twitter put was, Mother's Milk meet Father's Milk.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But so you have that stuff that was, and they're like little things that you would kind of catch almost in the background. There's a part where Annie's character is walking around kind of like in shock at everything that's going on. And very quickly you see little things like, oh, there's a teleporting dildo, and there's like a guy making a sex toy out of ice or something.
Yeah, there's a guy making an ice dildo. It's like,
yeah. So you get like these little hits and stuff of what's going on and little kind of nods and stuff, and they pass so quickly because what's honestly happening with the actual story instead of the Herogasm part is far more interesting.
Yes.
So you kind of like, you just kind of end up brushing that off. It's almost like there's a fly in your way.
You have everything coming together. So basically what happens plot wise is like Herogasm is being hosted at the mansion of TNT, who were members of Payback.
Not the channel.
Yeah. They were members of Payback. They're twin brother and sister. They hate each other. But since Soldier Boy has his hit list of he's going around and he's getting revenge on all the members of his team who sold him out to the Russians, and Butcher is happy to accommodate him in his quest for revenge as long as he helps Butcher take down Homelander. That's the deal.
And then all the other characters are coming together because the Deep finds out that it is, in fact, Soldier Boy and that he's been killing off.
Yeah, they got footage from last episode when Soldier Boy killed Crimson Countess. They got surveillance footage from outside that trailer that shows Soldier Boy leaving the wreckage, right? And the Deep shows this to Homelander. And so Homelander has 100% confirmation that Soldier Boy is alive. They figure out that Soldier Boy is going around killing members of Payback. And so they kind of like determine that TNT twins are going to be his next target as well.
They're the closest, apparently.
So Homelander sends the Deep to kind of like go check it out.
And then call him if Soldier Boy shows up, basically.
Yeah, if Soldier Boy shows up to call him, and then the plan is Homelander's going to kill Soldier Boy and they're going to cover it up. That's the plan. That's how we get all these characters in
and
one
then you
place.
have Mother's Milk and Annie having separated from Huey and Billy are like also going for that same kind of purpose because they know that they're going to be the next ones.
Right. Yeah. They know Soldier Boy's going to be there, and Mother's Milk obviously has a vendetta against Soldier Boy. He wants to get him.
So you have all these forces kind of conjoining, and then you have surprise show-ups like A-Train.
And you have poor Kamiko and Frenchie who can't join the party because they're a little tied up at the moment. Which it's funny though, because like separately walking around the Herogasm, Butcher is like, oh, Frenchie would have loved this.
Yeah.
He always
and then
wanted
Mother's
to see
Milk
this.
says that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Frenchie always wanted to see this. Too bad. Yeah.
And Mother's Milk's like, oh man, Frenchie's going to be upset that he missed this.
Yeah.
So he was there in spirit.
The Frenchie Kamiko storyline in this episode is like basically like we pick up from last episode where Frenchie has already been captured, but then they capture Kamiko as well. And so then they have like Kamiko and like Frenchie's girlfriend who are there, and the Russian mobster girl, like she tries to do this thing where she tries to force Frenchie to pick which one they kill, but Kamiko breaks free and ends up killing the agents, and like she runs and she frees Frenchie, and you get this like real good character moment.
Yeah.
She asks Frenchie if she's a monster, you know?
Yeah. That's the emotionally grounded story in this week's episode. I think the Frenchie, Kamiko stuff, I like those characters, but I think their actual story with this Russian lady is just kind of not, it just kind of, it just kind of feels like in the way, you know, it's almost like I wish they kind of had a separate spinoff to explore this or something, because it just kind of is slowing down the pace of everything else instead of, you know, like as much as I like those characters, it's just not that interesting of a story that they're in.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
But it's interesting from a character story perspective, just not from a plot perspective.
I don't like how it's divorced from like everything else that's happening.
Yeah. It is good though that you have like these moments, like they're exploring the idea of Kamiko hating her powers and blaming her powers for everything that she hates about herself. And then in this episode, she goes like just fucking ape shit on these Russian guys, kills them. And that's without her powers.
Maybe it's not her powers making her the way she is.
And then it's her, and they're exploring it from the same angle with Frenchie, with the Russian lady talking about Frenchie's past and the things that he's done. And so they're playing into the idea of like, okay, these are two damaged people, but they're right for each other because they both understand, like neither of them want to be what kind of the world is making them be, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so that's kind of, that makes the story interesting, makes the characters interesting, everything. But the plot is just kind of loose separate from everything else.
So anyway,
and every time it cuts to them, you're like, come on, just get back to the plot, you know?
Right, yeah. So anyway, back at Herogasm, Soldier Boy finds the TNT twins, but then he hears that Russian music and he goes off and he explodes and he kills them and probably like a bunch of other people too. And
he said like 20 or something, 20
There's like
other
20
people.
something other people. Yeah. It's
not
crazy.
just superheroes at the orgy, but like sex workers and stuff too.
So. Oh yeah, like anybody in the vicinity of the blast.
Yeah.
After that happens, Soldier Boy rejoins Butcher.
He's like, what happened?
Yeah, he's like, what happened?
He blacked out again.
He blacked out again. Like, Butcher takes note of it, too, because you can see Butcher's reaction. He doesn't say anything, but his facial reaction to that is like, yeah, he takes note of it. But before Butcher can even process that, Homelander shows up.
Homelander shows up stomping on fucking Termite.
Yeah, stomping on Termite, yeah. And then that's when shit goes down, because, Homelander discovers that Butcher has joined Soldier Boy, and Homelander finally knows the plan or the gist of the plan, right? He doesn't know everything that's happening, though.
He eye lasers Butcher. He's all deals off.
Yeah, he's like, we had a deal that we would fight to the death.
Yeah,
this is cheating. Earth.
And he's like, this is cheating.
This is cheating. Deals off. And he lasers Butcher. Like, he essentially like attempts to kill Butcher right there. Then he goes in on killing Soldier Boy.
Well, it's interesting when they talk because, Soldier Boy's, he's like, nobody's like me. You're not the new me. You're just a cheap imitation. And he's like, oh, I'm the upgrade. And he's the upgrade. You're wearing a fucking cape.
Yeah.
And I love how that came back into effect when they were in their fight,
Yeah. Homelander was like, you're the only one who is almost as strong as me. And then Soldier Boy says, buddy, you think you're strong? You're wearing a cape. You're nothing but a cheap fucking knockoff. He's like, knockoff? No, I'm the upgrade. And then the fight starts. It's like, it's cool. Yeah, because Homelander starts the fighting Soldier Boy, and eventually, like, Homelander does get the upper hand, and he starts choking Soldier Boy out. And the best part of this fight, though, is what Homelander doesn't know is that he didn't kill Butcher.
Yeah.
Butcher shows up and he lasers Homelander, and I love Homelander's reaction. It's just like, what the fuck?
We had a little preview of that because Huey hurt A-Train with a punch.
Yes.
And A-Train's like, how the fuck did you do that? And he didn't mean, how could you do that? Like, why did you do that? He means like, how were you able to hurt me?
How were you able to hurt me so badly? Yeah. Like A-Train was confused.
And we get a parallel of that with Homelander,
I thought A-Train was going to go and tell Homelander, but he never leaves the party. So that doesn't happen.
Yeah. But we get the parallel of that with Homelander shocked at Billy having powers. And then Billy's reaction is just scorched earth.
Yeah. Because Homelander gets up and he's like, what have you done? Butcher's just like, scorched earth, what they promised. And then he joins the battle. It gets crazy.
He's like, oi, scorched earth, shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah, shrimp. Shit gets crazy. They're having a laser eye battle. Homelander's flying in the air, but that's when the cape comes into play because Soldier Boy uses that cape to ground him.
Yeah. What I think is awesome about that, besides just the shot of it and the fact that it was telegraphed before, is that what this plays into is the psychology of Homelander. Homelander is the apex predator. Yes. Nobody is even close to him. Of the other superheroes and stuff, nobody's even remotely close to him. He's so far above everybody else he's encountered that nobody's a threat to him. There is no threat to him. So like wearing a cape that's like a hazard to a superhero, most superheroes in like a show like this wouldn't wear a cape. He's like the only one I think that does. And part of the reason why is because it's not a threat to him because nobody's strong enough for that to even matter.
No, nobody's strong enough.
And so that plays into the whole psychology of his character. Like he's now facing people that can hurt him.
Yes.
And where that does matter. And so these things, like his cape is like a vanity. And now that's like coming back against him. And so I think that's going to be interesting because it's going to play into the future of how Homelander is going to like reassess his way of doing things.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I can't wait for next episode is how Homelander is going to react to what just happened. So what does happen is, eventually Huey joins the fight as well. And the three of them, Huey, Butcher, and Soldier Boy, get the upper hand on Homelander and they manage to pin him down. Mm-hmm. And while he's pinned, they try to have Soldier Boy use his explosion blast on Homelander. But
Homelander's fight or flight instincts kicking into overdrive.
It doesn't work because before Soldier Boy can pull it off, Homelander manages to break free of their grip and he just flies away. He just leaves.
He's freaked out. I saw some people refer to him leaving as like a strategic. I'm like, it wasn't strategic.
No,
he was scared. This is the first time in his life that he has been physically scared.
Yes. That was like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
That way, yeah.
If it was a strategic escape, he would have gone into the air because nobody else is showing a capability of flying.
No,
so he would have just gone into the air and started lasering from the air.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But no, he left because he was scared. He didn't understand what was happening to him. And that's highlighted in a scene we see at the very end of the episode where you see he's got bruises on his face.
Yes. The first time he's probably ever experienced a bruise. And yeah, like circling back, A-Train's side story, we're continuing with that from last episode where A-Train's brother was injured badly by the racist Blue Hawk. And A-Train, he starts out this episode trying to get
justice against Blue Hawk.
Yeah, he's trying to get Ashley to do something against Blue Hawk, and Ashley is arguing against him. And,
can I just make a prediction right now? Yeah. By the finale of this season, we are going to have a shot of Ashley with like a bloody half-bald head, with just spots of hair missing everywhere.
She's completely losing it. And Ashley is at the end of her rope, and you know she's at the end of her rope because she snaps on A-Train and confronts him with every like shitty thing he's ever done.
Yeah, after pulling a huge clump of hair out of her head.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah.
Then she's like, you talk about justice, but you didn't mind when you were killing people, like all the incidents that you were involved in, all the people that died as collateral for what you've done. And she's like, you're just a hypocrite, and she just laid in on him and he couldn't really do anything. He left. So when we mentioned that Huey and him had a confrontation at the Herogasm party, with A-Train was there to find Blue Hawk. And Huey, of course, is there with Soldier Boy and
Butcher. Yeah.
They have that confrontation, and Huey's like, you know what? You never apologized. And A-Train's, he's like, we really going to do this now? And it's finally set in. He actually genuinely apologizes.
Yeah, he actually.
And he relates. He says, like, I know now what it's like to see somebody you care about, suffer and stuff. And he like literally takes that in. He doesn't fully understand the weight of it. His brother's still alive. His brother didn't get fucking atomized to goop.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's like he doesn't quite understand like to the extent of what happened with Huey, but he now like at least is owning it a bit. He's taking some ownership of it.
He's taking ownership of it. Huey is not the most accepting of the apology though, because Huey like decks him with his super strength.
Yeah. I mean, he only does it once. It's not like
it's not like
he doesn't lose control or something,
Right.
As we mentioned, this sets A-Train going like, how did you do that? But more importantly, what ends up happening is that A-Train finally confronts Blue Hawk.
He finds Blue Hawk and he lynches him basically by just running him on the road until Blue Hawk is like nothing but, a stain on the asphalt.
This is literally a lynching tactic that really occurred in history, used against Black people by like the Klan and other people in our racist old America, where they would like drag a Black person behind a truck or a car and skin them that way, like kill them. And it's horrific and horrible. And so the fact that they chose that method for A-Train to enact his like vengeance is like, that's like a deep psychological effect there,
Yes, it is. The last thing we see of A-Train is that he lays down, he's having a heart attack because like all season they made clear A-Train's heart was in the best condition, and there was a thing where like
that's been going on since season 1.
Yeah. And he said earlier this season that it was 50-50 if he ran again. He would not survive.
Now, this is the first time we've seen him use his powers this season.
Yes. And so he may be dead now. He may not be dead. It's inconclusive. He just stops and he lays down and he stops.
He starts hunching over and we get like an audio effect of like a heartbeat to show that it's like an irregular fast heartbeat to show that, something's wrong. And then he's like falling over and he's on his back and he's just looks unconscious. And that's the last we see of him so far. The other like last scene we really get is Mother Milk and Annie quitting the Seven.
She spills like all the secrets of what's going on her Instagram and she quits the Seven. And that's the last scene of the episode.
Do you want to read the fake Vought tweet that they sent out?
This was pretty funny because like I saw this today. This is a statement from Homelander and Vought regarding Starlight's recent Instagram live. So it reads, the recent accusations made by Annie January, codenamed Starlight, on a recent social media live stream in no way reflect Vought International as a whole. Vought assures our shareholders that we will use the full power of the American legal system to fight these spurious allegations. We can also confirm that January has been terminated and her status as co-captain of the 7 rescinded effective immediately. January is a glory hound who became hysterical with rage after Homelander ended their relationship. Sadly, her crazed jealousy has boiled over into insurrection territory and has made a reconciliation impossible. We ultimately regret making January a member of the 7. Our goal is and always will be the advancement of the American people and the expansion of liberty across the world. For America, Homelander.
Yeah. The third paragraph there is getting very Trumpian.
Yeah, it's getting very Trumpian. Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole like subtext, right? Like Homelander's acting very Trumpian this season.
Yes, very much. They're making some pretty direct references to it. Speaking of references, I think it was in the last episode we had that. Was it the last episode? No, it was maybe the second episode. I can't remember, but they did the Pepsi commercial.
Yes, they did.
Kylie Jenner Pepsi commercial that was so controversial with A-Train. Now they did something with the Deep that was the beginning of this episode where they made fun of the whole Imagine thing that was done by Gal Gadot. Yeah,
they made fun of that with the Deep. Yeah.
With some good celebrity cameos. That was really funny.
Patton Oswalt.
We
don't need to list them all.
Camille Nanjiani, those are some of the highlights of it. But yeah, it was a great like spoof of that. I love like the pop culture spoofs and The Boys. Those are really funny. That's pretty much it though for The Boys. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered it all. Excellent episode. Can't wait for this week's episode.
I kind of like where all the pieces are at. I like that the Russian story is hopefully over for Frenchie and Kimiko. I'm hoping that story's over. I mean, the one girl got away, but hopefully that just means she ran away and we don't have to see her again because that story is boring. And hopefully this can bring Frenchie and Kimiko back into the fold in some way for the remaining 2 episodes. I love where Homelander's at, with everything that went on. I love that he's in this place now.
Yeah.
I love where Starlight's at, that it's out. And I like that we didn't mention this, but Starlight had a confrontation with the senator, their AOC parallel, the head popper.
Oh, yeah. And we should see more with that.
And that's out now, too. Like now they both know that each other know their secret. And I like that that's out there now.
Right.
So that's it then for this week of The Boys. Next week, we are going to be taking a break from The Boys and Ms. Marvel because we're going to be discussing Stranger Things Season 4, Part 2, the last 2 episodes. That's what we're going to be talking about on next week's podcast. And then after that, we're going to conclude both Ms. Marvel and The Boys with the last 2 episodes of each of those seasons. So that's what's coming up in the next 2 weeks of our show. So until then, you can leave us a comment on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. You can find links there to our social media accounts, our YouTube channel, everything else there, and all of our content and where it's available. You can find that there. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.